sometimes question your life choices?
Oh my god, it's cold. Now, thanks to the magic of a green screen and editing, I can now be on a boat in the Caribbean, but let's face it, it's not doing it for anyone really. It's myself included. Just kidding, Ryan, myself, Polar Steel and Barnacle are on a winter break here in the United States before we'll resume our sailing adventures up north to Canada next year. But that's not the topic of this video, because today I want to tell you about how you can get here to this place in real life. Even though you know nothing or very little about sailboats, because, well, that's where we started ourselves 8 years ago. I know, 8 years ago. If you're new here, hi, my name is Sophie, and in 2015 I met a guy on Tinder, and a couple of months later the guy was reading an article on the internet about Matt and Jessica, a couple who decided to drop everything behind to start sailing the world. The only detail is that, well, Matt and Jessica had almost no experience of boat or sailing, but that didn't prevent them from sailing the world for the last 10 years with their cat. So within 5 minutes of that WhatsApp conversation, we naturally decided that we were going to do the same thing. But much like Matt and Jessica, we had never sailed before, you know. The devil is in the detail. As it turns out, it was in fact a good life decision, because as opposed to right now where I'm sailing from a green screen, we have in fact sailed the world for the last 5 years, totaling 25,000 nautical miles between Stockholm in the Baltic down to the Mediterranean Sea and across the Atlantic 3 times, and now on the east coast of the United States. And now we're even friends with Matt and Jessica, right, Matt?
You're the worst friend ever!
But the transition from knowing nothing about sailing to leaving the dock on our own boat did not happen overnight, and in fact, it was a bit overwhelming with tons and tons of stuff to learn and no real one-stop shop resource to learn everything that we needed to know to go from zero to sail the world on our boat. Of course, we first had to learn how to sail and handle the boat. That's 101. But we also had to learn about the different types of boats so that we could buy the one that we needed. And then we needed to learn to buy the boat. And once we had the boat, it got worse, because there was, you know, maintaining the boat, but also how do you make good decisions when you don't know what you're doing? And that's even before we talk about budgeting for life at sea in different countries, and how to manage your relationship when you live in this tiny confined little space, and clear custom between countries. I mean, it's just a lot. So ever since we got into sailing and since we started this YouTube channel that you're watching, my ultimate goal as a content creator was to create the resource that we wanted to have 8 years ago. I wanted to create the ultimate how to get started in the sailing life guide, and now I've done it. And oh my god, I realize now how insane it was, all the things that we needed to learn, because yeah, it took us an entire year and a team of over 10 people to put all of our knowledge and all the resources that we know of in one place. There was a handful of producers on the project, and when we thought about structuring the course, we divided it into what we consider to be the 6 pillars of a successful sailing adventure. The first pillar is your sailing knowledge and seamanship. Because if you want to sail the world, you need to have the adequate skills. Sailing is in some way like skiing. There are various levels of skills and things you can do with those skills, and things that you should definitely not do. And that's also the concept of seamanship, right? What you can do with the skills that you have and your boat so that you and others are safe. Which brings us to the second pillar of a successful sailing adventure, which is having the right boat and the right equipment. It's like having the appropriate tools for the job, right? If you were trying to sail across the Atlantic in a car, it wouldn't really work. Oh wait, someone actually tried that. The third pillar of a successful sailing adventure that we identified is knowing your sailing destinations and prepare your navigations accordingly. It is one thing to know how to handle a boat, but when you sail the world, you quickly learn that everywhere you go, sailing can be wildly different. So you need to know how to research those destinations in terms of the weather patterns, the seasonality, and even legal requirements sometimes, so that you can plan your navs properly. Destination research when it comes to sailing is very different than when you go on a regular vacation, and that planning phase is absolutely key. The fourth pillar of a successful sailing adventure is obviously budgeting and having a clear picture of the lifestyle that you want to have on board. Now, I don't think I need to explain this one too much. Life costs money, even on a boat. But when you have never sailed the world before, it can be tricky to understand how you're going to spend your money and when, but also how much you need. Most people fall under two categories. The underestimators, where sailing the world can be super cheap and we can hold a mega tight budget, but then you go out there and you realize that it's worse than you thought. And then there are the overestimators. Sailing the world is too expensive, we could never afford it. Ryan and I were definitely underestimators. Truth is that yes, you can live this lifestyle on any budget, but in order to make that budget, you need to know what it costs. And Ryan and I had no idea. The fifth pillar of a successful sailing adventure is crew readiness. Okay, so when most people prepare a sailing adventure, they will prepare the boat really well, put a lot of thoughts and care into choosing and equipping the perfect sailboat, but most aspiring cruisers think a lot less about how they are going to manage life on board with their husband, wife, or family. And it's understandable, right? Because you are planning this adventure so that you can have a lot of fun, create great memories, spend time together, and this idea that sailing is going to bring cohesion and good times always.
The anchor chain has snapped and your boat was just saved from wrecking onto a reef.
So crew readiness is knowing your crew, knowing their skills and their limitation, knowing to work with them, but also making sure that everyone finds the adventure enjoyable, at least most of the time. And that brings us to the sixth pillar of a successful sailing adventure, which is finding enjoyment. So we developed the course around those 6 pillars, and guys, this is the moment I need to tell you how huge of a project this was. We developed this course with a company called Bright Trip, which is like the masterclass of travel, culture, and adventure. They have made really high quality courses about visiting Tokyo, van life, the history of Paris, for example, and now how to sail the world. It was 6 months of writing, 2 full weeks of shooting, 5 months of editing, and they have pulled all the stops on this course, which is incredible because it was a full-time animator working on the project that helped us put concepts that can be hard for beginners to grasp into animation. And so on top of explaining these essential concepts in a very efficient way, the course looked truly amazing. Part 1 drops in just a couple of days on December 20th, and it covers getting started. In this part, we will go through basic sailing knowledge, like what you need to know when you know nothing. That's all the parts of the boat, the lines, how they work, the physics of sailing, what are the basic sailing maneuver, some knots and line work, but also how to keep you safe. We talk about basic safety principles and how to learn about safety. Ryan does a lesson on risk management, which includes a checklist, and we talk about how to develop your sailing experience and develop seamanship. So with that basic knowledge, we go on to all the different kinds of boats, how to choose the right boat for you, how much it costs, all the things that you need to know if you buy brand new or if you buy a used boat, should you charter instead of buying, all the costs of ownerships, and all the hidden costs of buying a sailboat. And finally, in part 1, we go through all the equipment you may or may not need for your adventure. From choosing a dinghy setup, to understanding your electric system, how to manage water, and do you need a water maker, to all the navigation and communication equipment that exists, and basic safety equipment that you may consider carrying on board. It's a lot, and that's just part 1. Now we're going over to part 2, which drops in 2023. Part 2 is all about maritime navigation, weather, destination research, and passage planning. In this part, we will first cover the most popular cruising destinations, and we will give you all the resources you need to carry out your own research when you consider sailing somewhere. We also have a lesson on how to enter new countries by sailboat and clear customs, because honestly, that was a concept that I didn't even know existed. I couldn't even conceive that it was a thing. You could enter a country by sailboat. Like, how do you do that? Then we do a deep dive into maritime navigation and how to read and use a nautical chart. How do you plot a course? How do you calculate maritime distances? estimate speed and time of departure and arrival. Of course, part 2 contains a whole section about the weather and how to plan for conditions at sea, and we wrap up by combining it all together and establish a comprehensive passage plan. When you have gone through part 1 and part 2, which is already a lot, we'll go over to part 3, which covers everything budgeting and lifestyle. The budgeting lesson is probably going to be the longest, and at the end of it, you'll be able to make your own estimate for how much your sailing adventure may cost. We also cover how to make your boat comfortable, how to get mentally ready, how to deal with seasickness, and how to prepare your relationship for the challenges of life at sea. This is not a course in which we give you a pre-baked one formula, this is how we do it type thing. Also, it goes without saying, but you can only learn the theory of sailing on the internet. We wouldn't pretend to be able to teach you how to sail. We're not instructors, right? But we do give you the resources to find a form of tuition that suits you best, whether you're completely new or you want to build up sailing experience, or you want to learn on your own boat or on somebody else's boat, everything that we didn't know 8 years ago. The greatest gift that we received when we learned how to sail was from our instructors. We approached them with our project and we chose them because they were cruisers themselves. And instead of trying to corner us into one way of doing things, our instructor provided us with insights so that we could make our own decision. And that is the spirit in which we created this course. Our objective for you at the end of this course is that you can think critically about the choices that you make, rather than giving you a one-size-fits-all recipe for how to get you to sea. Now, it doesn't matter if you want to sail the world on a budget in a 28-footer, or if you're looking to purchasing a brand new 60-foot catamaran, because making decisions that work for you and your circumstances is probably the most single critical aspect of your preparations. We made this course because we are passionate about bringing more people into this incredible lifestyle of ours, and we hope that one day down the road we get to connect with you who took this course and graduated to the other side of sailing YouTube. Until then, we will be hosting live sessions throughout the year with all the course goers to address their own projects and questions that they may have. The first part launches on December 20th, so go to brightrip.com/sailing to buy it. There will be an early bird offer until Christmas, and this is like the ideal Christmas present for the sailor in your life, or, maybe for yourself. I know that 8 years ago, this is exactly what we would have wanted for Christmas.
This course is approved by Barnacle, who right now we are teaching to become a competent crew aboard Polar Seal. Right now we are learning how to choose a dinghy, and this spring we're going to take little Barnacle with us to choose our new dinghy for Polar Seal. How's that going, Barnacle? Yeah? Should we get you some popcorn?